The Grand Royal Ballroom glittered under crystal chandeliers, each prism reflecting 1,000 points of light across the polished marble floors. Guests mingled in gowns and tuxedos, champagne flutes clinking in a delicate symphony of wealth and refinement. Clara Bennett sat quietly at a corner table, her silk navy blue dress a soft contrast to the opulence around her. She wasn't a socialite. She wasn't used to glamorous galas or glittering crowds. Tonight, she was here as the assistant to her employer, helping manage logistics and making sure everything ran smoothly. She sipped her sparkling water, scanning the crowd. Everyone seemed paired or talking in animated clusters. A smile, a toast, a laugh. Clara felt like an outsider, invisible amidst the glitter. Perfectly ordinary, in an extraordinary world, she thought. As she sat, a commotion on the dance floor caught her eye. A group of guests had moved aside, and suddenly, a tall, impeccably dressed man strode into view. His presence was magnetic, broad-shouldered, dark hair swept back, and eyes that seemed to notice everything. He surveyed the room, not arrogantly, but with an air of quiet authority. Clara's gaze fell to the floor. She didn't expect anyone like him to notice someone like her. Then, to her shock, he walked directly toward her. "May I?" he asked, gesturing toward the space beside her. Clara blinked. "Excuse me?" He smiled, polite but confident. "I noticed you sitting alone. Would you care for a dance?" Clara froze. Her pulse quickened. A stranger, impeccably dressed, asking her, a quiet, unnoticed assistant, for a dance. I don't dance," she stammered, hoping he would misunderstand and move on. "Nonsense," he said warmly, offering his hand. "I insist, just one dance. If it's not your style, I promise I won't ask again." There was something in his tone, a combination of charm, warmth, and assurance, that made it impossible to refuse. Clara hesitated, then placed her hand tentatively in his. He led her to the center of the dance floor, the music swelling around them, a slow melodic waltz. Her heart pounded as he held her with ease, guiding her through the steps without condescension, making her feel confident despite her inexperience. "You're doing wonderfully," he said softly. "I can tell you've got grace, even if you don't realize it." Clara felt herself relax slightly, encouraged by his patience. She couldn't deny that part of her was thrilled that someone like him could notice her, invite her into a moment so unlike her ordinary life. "Who are you?" she asked quietly, stealing a glance at his profile. "Alexander Vaughn," he said, eyes locked on hers. "And you are?" "Clara Bennett," she replied. Alexander's smile widened subtly. "Clara, that suits you. It's simple, elegant, much like you." Clara's cheeks flushed. "Simple and elegant? He doesn't even know me." The dance continued, effortless, despite her initial awkwardness. Alexander had a way of making her feel at ease, as if the world beyond the ballroom had vanished. For a few minutes, she was no longer an assistant sitting alone in a corner. She was the center of attention, truly seen. When the song ended, he guided her back toward her table, bowing slightly. "Thank you for trusting me," he said. "It was delightful." Clara nodded, words failing her. She felt a mix of exhilaration and disbelief. A stranger, an extraordinary man, had asked her to dance and she had accepted. And somehow, it hadn't been awkward. Later, she returned to her table, sipping water, trying to steady her thoughts. She couldn't stop stealing glances at Alexander, who was now speaking with a group of distinguished guests. There was an ease in his posture, an attentiveness in his gaze, and a quiet charisma that drew people toward him without effort. Then, unexpectedly, he turned toward her again. Their eyes met across the crowded ballroom, and he offered a small nod, a silent acknowledgement, a promise of recognition, and perhaps more. Clara's heart raced. Why me, she wondered. I'm just me. But the spark of connection, fleeting as it was, lingered. She realized that something about this encounter, the unexpected dance, the warmth in his gaze, had shifted her perception of the evening. By the end of the gala, Clara's responsibilities drew her back into work. She coordinated vendors, ensured the guests were attended to, and quietly kept the night running smoothly. Alexander occasionally approached, offering subtle gestures, ensuring her comfort, acknowledging her presence, but never intruding. As the evening concluded, the crowd began to disperse. Clara gathered her things, preparing to leave quietly, when she felt a presence at her side. "Leaving so soon?" Alexander asked, his voice low and inviting. Clara smiled. Nervously, "Work called. I have to tidy up." He nodded, understanding. "Of course, but perhaps we could continue our conversation outside of this whirlwind of glamour and responsibility?" Clara felt a thrill of anticipation. I'd like that," she replied. That night, as she rode home in a cab, Clara replayed the evening in her mind. The gala, the sparkling chandeliers, the music, and that moment on the dance floor. It felt like a dream, but it was more than a fleeting encounter. It was a reminder that unexpected moments could lead to extraordinary experiences, even for someone like her, someone quiet, often overlooked, and used to blending into the background. She realized that the dance had been more than movement. It had been a bridge, connecting two people from different worlds. And for the first time in a long while, Clara felt that the universe might just be capable of surprises. Clara's night had shifted from ordinary to unforgettable. A chance encounter with Alexander Vaughn, a billionaire exuding charm and confidence, had opened a door, one she hadn't even known existed. The morning after the gala, Clara Bennett woke to the faint light filtering through her apartment blinds. Her mind, however, was not on the sunlight. It was on Alexander Vaughn. She had replayed the dance in her head countless times, the way he had guided her across the ballroom, the gentle way he had spoken, the way his eyes seemed to see right through her self-doubt. A notification on her phone made her jump. It was a text from an unknown number. "Good morning, Clara. I hope the gala left you with a smile. Coffee today?" Her pulse quickened. It's him, Alexander. She hesitated for a brief moment, then typed back, "Coffee sounds good. 10 a.m., Cornerstone Cafe? Perfect. I'll see you there," he replied almost immediately. The Cornerstone Cafe was a quaint spot in the heart of the city, known for its artisanal coffee and quiet ambiance, a stark contrast to the grandeur of the gala. Clara arrived early, finding a table by the window. She took a deep breath, smoothing her navy blue skirt, reminding herself to stay calm. Moments later, Alexander arrived, dressed casually but impeccably, a soft smile playing on his lips. "Clara," he said warmly, "it's nice to see you outside a ballroom for once." "You too," she replied, feeling the flutter in her chest she had tried to ignore. They ordered coffee and settled into the cozy space. The conversation started lightly, about favorite books, movies, and little quirks about the city, but it didn't stay light for long. Alexander's curiosity and attentiveness encouraged Clara to open up in ways she hadn't expected. "You seem different from anyone I've met," he said, studying her expression. "Not just because you're not afraid to laugh at yourself, but because you notice details others miss. It's refreshing." Clara felt a warmth rise in her cheeks. "I guess I've always paid attention. It helps me navigate life. And it's nice when someone notices." "I notice," he said softly, taking a sip of his coffee. "Even when you think you're invisible." Her heart skipped a beat. Invisible. Most of the time she did feel unnoticed. But here was Alexander Vaughn, a man whose presence seemed larger than life, telling her that she mattered. As the morning progressed, Clara found herself laughing freely, talking about her childhood, her small apartment, filled with books, and the dream she had once harbored of traveling the world. Alexander listened intently, his focus unwavering, his comments thoughtful and genuine. "You've got a perspective on life that's rare," he said. "You don't just exist, you observe, reflect, and act. That's impressive." Clara smiled, touched by the sincerity in his voice. She wasn't used to receiving such compliments, and certainly not from someone of his caliber. Just as she was beginning to feel comfortable, a sudden text pulled her attention. It was from her sister, calling about a minor family emergency. Clara excused herself to respond quickly, worried she might be ruining the moment. Alexander watched patiently, his gaze warm but unintrusive. When she returned, he raised an eyebrow with a playful smirk. "Family first," he said simply. "I admire that." Clara nodded, grateful for his understanding. It reminded her that this connection wasn't just about attraction. It was about respect, patience, and genuine care. Later that day, Alexander suggested a walk in the nearby park. The city streets were bustling, but the park offered a quiet sanctuary. Trees arched overhead, creating a tunnel of green, and birds chirped faintly amidst the urban noise. "I wanted to show you this spot," he said. "It's peaceful, a good place to step away from everything else." Clara looked around, appreciating the tranquility. "It's beautiful," she said, "and I can see why you like it." They strolled together, talking about goals, fears, and small life moments. Clara found herself revealing things she rarely shared, her doubts about her career, her fear of being overlooked, and her quiet hope for meaningful connections. Alexander listened, never interrupting, offering insights only when she asked. He was patient, attentive, and respectful, making her feel valued and understood. The walk ended at a small pond, its surface shimmering under the afternoon sun. Ducks glided gracefully, and the gentle breeze stirred the water's edge. Clara paused to watch them, feeling an unusual calm settle over her. "You have got a rare quality," Alexander said quietly, breaking the silence. "Most people rush through life missing the small moments. You notice, you care, you live intentionally. That's why I was drawn to you at the gala." Clara felt her chest tighten. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," he replied. "Just let this moment be, and know that I genuinely enjoy being with you, Clara." Her lips curved into a soft smile. "Being with him, truly being seen, it feels like home, even though I barely know him." Over the next week, their connection continued to grow. Messages were exchanged thoughtfully, calls were made without pressure, and casual meetups allowed them to explore each other's worlds gradually. Alexander never rushed, never demanded, and never assumed. Something Clara realized was rare, especially from someone so accomplished and influential. Yet, not everything was seamless. Clara began noticing whispers among colleagues at work, rumors about her association with Alexander, assumptions about her intentions, and subtle judgments. She felt torn between excitement for their budding connection and fear of scrutiny. She confided in her best friend Claire over the phone. "I don't know if I can handle the attention," she admitted. "I like him. I really like him. But people are already talking, assuming things." Claire's voice was steady. "Clara, if he's the person you think he is, he'll support you. And you can set boundaries with the world. Don't let anyone steal your joy before it even begins." Clara sighed. "You're right, I don't want to get hurt." "You won't," Claire said firmly. "You're careful, and that's good. Just let things unfold naturally. Trust him, and trust yourself." A week later, Alexander invited Clara to a private art exhibit, a collection of contemporary works he had helped sponsor. The gallery was quiet, intimate, a perfect escape from judgmental eyes and casual gossip. Walking side by side, they discussed the pieces thoughtfully, but the conversation inevitably turned personal. Clara shared her fears about being judged, about people assuming her motives, and about being overlooked despite her own achievements. Alexander listened, holding her hand lightly as they paused before a particularly striking painting. "Clara, the only opinion that matters is ours," he said softly. "Not what people whisper, not what assumptions they make. You are extraordinary on your own terms, and I see that." Her heart swelled with emotion. For the first time in a long while, she felt understood, protected, and appreciated, not for her proximity to wealth, not for appearances, but for who she truly was. Clara and Alexander had navigated the aftermath of the gala, strengthened their connection, and faced the first external challenges: gossip, assumptions, and the need to trust each other in the face of scrutiny. Their relationship was no longer just an accidental dance. It was a deliberate, intentional journey, slowly unfolding amid the pressures of life, status, and personal vulnerabilities. The week after the private art exhibit, Clara Bennett felt a mix of excitement and nervous anticipation every time her phone buzzed. Alexander Vaughn had texted her almost daily since the gala, their conversations ranging from casual banter to thoughtful reflections on life, art, and ambition. But today felt different. The messages had been slower, and he seemed distant. By mid-afternoon, Clara decided to call him. "Hello?" His voice was calm, but she caught a trace of hesitation. "Hi, Alexander. I wanted to check in. Everything okay?" she asked. There was a pause. "Yes, just been busy," he said finally, but his tone lacked its usual warmth. "I'm sorry if I've seemed distant." Clara's heart sank slightly. Busy, distant. What does that mean? She reminded herself not to overthink. "It's okay. I just wanted to hear your voice." A silence followed. Then, "Clara, can we meet?" "I think it's better to talk in person." They agreed to meet at a quiet little cafe near the river, a spot Alexander had mentioned he liked for its serenity. Clara arrived early, choosing a seat overlooking the water, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee. She felt the familiar thrill of anticipation, mixed now with a tinge of worry. When Alexander arrived, his expression was serious. He waved and approached, taking the seat across from her. He looked calm, yet she sensed something unsaid in his posture. "Clara," he began, "I owe you an explanation." She nodded cautiously. "I'm listening." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "The past few days at work have been chaotic. Decisions I've had to make, pressures from investors, and unexpected company issues. I didn't mean to be distant, but I realize it might have seemed that way. And I don't want you to feel secondary." Clara softened, realizing the enormity of his responsibilities. "I understand," she said gently. "I know you have a lot on your plate. I miss the warmth you usually bring to our conversations." Alexander reached for her hand across the table, a small, grounding gesture. "I don't want to lose the connection we've started. It's rare for me, Clara, and I've been careless in showing it." Her chest lifted at his honesty. "Thank you for telling me. I don't want to pressure you, but I need to feel seen too." He smiled softly, his eyes reflecting both relief and admiration. "You are seen, Clara, I promise." After the conversation, they decided to take a walk along the river. The late afternoon sun reflected on the rippling water, and the faint breeze carried the scent of blooming flowers from a nearby park. Clara felt the familiar calm settle over her. As they walked, Alexander gently asked about her own week, her work, her routines, taking care to listen without rushing. Clara shared moments of small victories at her job, the stress of tight deadlines, and her own aspirations for personal growth. "You know," Alexander said thoughtfully, "there's something extraordinary about how you navigate life. You're practical, yet you remain sensitive and thoughtful. It's remarkable." Clara blushed, slightly embarrassed. "I just try to keep balance. Life can get overwhelming if you don't pay attention." He chuckled. "I noticed, and I admire it. Most people in your position, let's be honest, They'd try to impress me, overcomplicate things. But you're straightforward, authentic. It's refreshing." The words warmed her, and for the first time in days, she felt the tension from earlier melt completely. That evening, Alexander invited Clara to a charity gala, a smaller, more intimate affair than the Grand Royale event. Clara hesitated, unsure of navigating another formal setting, but Alexander reassured her. "It's low-key," he said. "And besides, I'd like you there. I enjoy your company." At the gala, Clara noticed the difference in her own confidence. She no longer felt like an outsider. Alexander's presence wasn't overshadowing, it was empowering. He introduced her to colleagues with respect, asked her opinions on small matters, and subtly included her in conversations without making her feel like a guest. As the evening progressed, they shared quiet moments away from the crowd, watching the city skyline from a balcony, laughing about minor mishaps in the kitchen of the venue, and enjoying soft music played by a live quartet. At one point, Alexander took her hand and led her to the center of the balcony floor. "Care for another dance?" he asked, echoing the moment that had started it all. Clara laughed softly. "I didn't know dancing was part of this evening's plan." "You don't need to know," he said with a grin. "Just follow me." This dance was different from the gala. It was private, intimate, and playful. Clara realized that Alexander's confidence wasn't just about wealth or status. It was about his ability to create moments that mattered, moments that allowed connection to flourish as they ved together to the soft music. Clara shared small stories from her childhood, moments of embarrassment, and fleeting dreams she'd once had. Alexander listened with patience and encouragement, gently teasing but never belittling. "I could get used to this," he said softly, spinning her lightly. "Spending time like this, without pretense, without expectation, just us." Clara felt her heart lift. "I could too," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Later, after the gala, they walked through quiet streets, the city lights reflecting in puddles from an earlier rain. Alexander stopped and turned to her. "Clara, there's something I need to ask you. Not a proposal, don't panic, but something important." Clara's pulse quickened. "Okay, what is it?" "I want to know if you're willing to explore this with me. I'm serious about getting to know you, about building something meaningful, but it requires honesty, patience, and trust. I'm not perfect and life isn't simple. Are you willing to try fully?" Clara felt tears prick her eyes. The sincerity in his voice, the vulnerability he allowed himself, it mirrored the very qualities she valued most. Yes, she whispered. "I want to try. But only if we're honest, always. No assumptions, no hiding things. If we're in this, it's together." Alexander smiled, relief and warmth lighting his face. "Agreed. Together." Clara and Alexander had deepened their bond through honest conversations, shared challenges, and moments of vulnerability. Misunderstandings had been addressed. Confidence had grown, and their connection had evolved from a fleeting dance at a gala into a promising, intentional relationship. Yet, as Clara walked home that night, she realized the journey was far from over. Life, Alexander's world, and her own insecurities would continue to test them, but she now felt ready to face those challenges, knowing they could do it together. The following week, Clara Bennett felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. After the intimate moments with Alexander at the art exhibit and the smaller gala, she was eager to continue exploring their connection. But reality had a way of complicating even the most promising beginnings. Her phone buzzed mid-morning with a message from Alexander. "Lunch today? I'd like to talk about something important." Clara felt her heart flutter. "Important? What could it be?" She replied immediately, "Sure, same cafe. Perfect. See you at 1 p.m. When Clara arrived at the Cornerstone Cafe, Alexander was already waiting. He looked a bit preoccupied, scanning the menu absent-mindedly. She approached cautiously. "Hi," she said softly, sliding into the chair across from him. "Clara," he said, smiling faintly. "Thanks for coming. I wanted to clear the air about something that's been on my mind." Clara raised an eyebrow. "Oh?" He took a deep breath. "Some people at work, they're gossiping. They've noticed our interactions at the galas and exhibits, and some of their assumptions have made thin. GS awkward. I wanted to talk to you before it affects our connection." Clara felt a surge of frustration. "You mean they're judging me? Assuming things about me because of you?" Alexander nodded, regret in his eyes. "Yes, and I hate that it might make you uncomfortable or feel undermined. I wanted you to know I support you, and that we deal with this together." Her chest softened. She had been nervous about workplace judgment, and his acknowledgement made her feel seen. "Thank you for saying that. I was worried I might be overreacting." "You're not," he said firmly, "and I want us to be honest with each other, no matter what anyone else says." Lunch passed in a mix of conversation and careful planning. Alexander suggested strategies for addressing gossip professionally without letting it impact Clara's confidence. He reminded her that she was valued for her skills, her personality, and the integrity she brought to every situation, not for her proximity to him. "I appreciate you," Clara said quietly, touched by his thoughtfulness. "Most people in your world wouldn't notice or care." Alexander smiled, taking her hand gently. "I notice, and I care, not just because of appearances or expectations, but because I respect who you are." Her heart swelled. For the first time she realized that this wasn't about superficial attraction or fleeting charm. Alexander valued her mind, her character, and her independence. That evening, Alexander invited Clara to a private rooftop dinner at his penthouse. The city skyline stretched endlessly behind them, lights twinkling like stars. The air was crisp, the gentle hum of traffic below creating a quiet background to their conversation. They sat across from each other, sharing a meal prepared by a renowned chef Alexander had hired for the night. Yet the real focus wasn't the food, it was their dialogue. "You know," Alexander began, "I've been thinking about how unpredictable life can be. One moment you're sitting alone at a gala feeling invisible. The next, someone invites you to dance, and your entire world shifts." Clara smiled, remembering that exact moment. "I never expected that dance. It changed how I saw the evening, and maybe even myself. And it changed me," he admitted. "I realized that genuine connection can happen anywhere, at any moment, if you're willing to be present. That night, I noticed you, not the crowd, not the lights, just you, and I've wanted to explore that ever since." Clara's throat tightened. His words were sincere, heartfelt, far beyond what she had imagined from a man of his status. Just as they were enjoying the serenity, Alexander's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his brow furrowed slightly. "I need to take this," he said apologetically, stepping a few feet away. Clara watched him, understanding, but also noticing the tension that had replaced his calm demeanor. When he returned, his expression was serious. "Clara, I need to be honest," he said. "There's a situation at the company, a major client issue, and I might be pulled away frequently in the next few weeks. I don't want you to feel neglected, or that I'm prioritizing work over this us." Clara took a deep breath. She knew that being involved with someone like Alexander came with challenges, but she also understood that honesty was a strength, not a weakness. "I get it," she said softly. "We both have responsibilities. I'm not expecting perfection. I just want transparency. If things get busy, let me know." He nodded, relief visible. "Thank you. That's exactly what I want too. I don't want work to create distance, but I also don't want you to feel ignored." Later, as the city lights reflected in the floor-to-ceiling windows, Clara realized how much she had grown in these few weeks. She was no longer sitting alone at galas, uncertain of her place in the world. She had found someone who challenged her, supported her, and respected her independence. But the weekend brought another unexpected test. Alexander invited Clara to a charity ball, but a miscommunication left her feeling unsure of her attire and role. She had been told the event was casual, only to find the venue glittering with high society in evening gowns and tuxedos. Clara felt a pang of panic as she stepped into the grand hall, suddenly self-conscious. Alexander noticed immediately. "Clara," he said softly, guiding her by the elbow, "you look stunning, but more importantly, you belong here, not because of me, but because of who you are." His reassurance calmed her nerves. For the first time, she realized that her insecurities, while real, could be soothed by mutual respect and understanding, rather than status or grandeur. Throughout the evening, Clara mingled with guests, gradually relaxing into the rhythm of conversation. Alexander remained by her side, introducing her thoughtfully, never overshadowing her. When she stumbled over a minor social faux pas, he leaned in, whispering a humorous comment that made her laugh without embarrassment. By the end of the night, Clara recognized a profound truth. The connection she and Alexander shared wasn't about wealth, appearances, or societal expectations. It was built on trust, communication, and the ability to navigate life's pressures together. As they walked back to her apartment, the crisp night air carrying the faint scent of winter, Clara felt a sense of anticipation and contentment. "I didn't realize relationships could feel like this," she admitted. Alexander smiled, brushing a stray hair from her face. "Few people experience it. Most are distracted by appearances or status. But we're focused on the real connection. That's rare, and I don't take it for granted." Clara's heart swelled. Rare, intentional, real. That's exactly what she had been longing for. At her doorstep, Alexander held her hand gently. "Clara, these past weeks have been unexpected, full of challenges and surprises, but I wouldn't trade a moment. Can we promise to face whatever comes next together, honestly and patiently?" "I promise," she said, her voice steady. Together, Clara and Alexander had faced external pressures, insecurities, and miscommunications. Their connection had deepened, anchored in transparency, mutual respect, and shared understanding. The chance encounter at the gala was no longer just an incident. It was the foundation of a real, intentional, and resilient bond. The weeks that followed brought both joy and challenges. Clara Bennett had settled into a rhythm with Alexander Vaughn. Meetings over coffee, quiet walks in the park, dinners that felt intimate despite the luxury around them. Yet, life's unpredictability was never far away. It was a Tuesday evening when Alexander called with urgency in his voice. "Clara, can you come over? I need your advice, personally and professionally." Concern prickled her nerves, but she didn't hesitate. "Of course. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Arriving at Alexander's penthouse, Clara was greeted by an unusual tension. Papers were scattered across the living room table, and Alexander paced slowly, clearly stressed. "What's going on?" Clara asked, taking in the scene. He stopped and turned to her, his dark eyes intense. "It's a critical situation with one of our international investors. A deal that could redefine the company's future is on the line, and I realized I needed your perspective." Clara blinked, caught off guard. She was not a financial expert. She worked in communications and logistics, not high-stakes negotiations. Yet the way Alexander looked at her, trusting, serious, and seeking her input, made her step forward with quiet confidence. "You trust me?" she asked softly. "I do," he said simply. For the next hour, Clara listened to Alexander outline the challenges, potential miscommunications, cultural differences, and strategic missteps that could jeopardize the deal. She asked questions, suggested solutions, and even role-played scenarios. Her insight, practical, honest, and grounded, gave Alexander clarity he hadn't had before. This is incredible," he said after a pause, relief washing over his face. "Clara, you're amazing. I never expected this level of insight, and it's made all the difference." Clara smiled, feeling a mix of pride and nervousness. "I just tried to see it clearly without panic. That's all." Alexander shook his head, his smile growing warmer. "No, you didn't just try, you succeeded. You've reminded me that perspective isn't about experience alone, it's about seeing clearly and speaking honestly. That's what you did." After the discussion, Alexander leaned back, taking Clara's hand gently. "You've been there for me in so many ways," he said quietly. "From the moment you accepted my invitation to dance at the gala, you've been extraordinary. I don't just admire you, Clara. I need you in my life." Her heart skipped a beat. She had sensed the depth of his feelings, but hearing him say it with such sincerity brought tears to her eyes. "Alexander, I feel the same," she whispered. "From the first dance to all of this, I've never felt so understood, so valued." Just as the intensity of the moment settled into warmth, a knock at the door startled them. Alexander opened it to find his assistant, holding urgent documents. "Mr. Vaughn, the investor is calling. They need final confirmation." Alexander glanced at Clara. "This is the moment," Clara nodded. "You've got this. Trust what you've learned. Trust yourself. And don't forget, I'm here." With her quiet encouragement, Alexander exuded calm and authority. He handled the call flawlessly, negotiating terms and reassuring the investor with a composed, confident tone. When he hung up, he looked at Clara with gratitude and admiration. "You helped me navigate that," he said. "I wouldn't have handled it as well without your support." Clara laughed softly, shaking her head. "You did all the hard work, I just offered perspective." Alexander took her hand again, lifting it to his lips briefly. "Perspective, support, presence, all of it matters. Especially you." The next weekend, Alexander invited Clara to a private garden party at his estate. The sun was warm, flowers in bloom, and the soft hum of a string quartet filled the air. Guests mingled, but Alexander had arranged a small, intimate section just for them, a place to talk, laugh, and be themselves without scrutiny. "Clara," he said, taking her hand as they strolled through the garden, "these past weeks have shown me that life's unexpected moments can lead to the most meaningful connections. You've changed the way I see the world in ways I didn't anticipate." Clara smiled, touched by the sentiment. "I could say the same about you. I never thought a random dance at a gala could evolve into this." Alexander laughed softly. "Neither did I, but I wouldn't change a thing, and I want us to keep building, carefully, intentionally, together." As the evening sun dipped below the horizon, Alexander surprised Clara with a small dance in the garden, just the two of them, the music soft and the air fragrant with jasmine. She felt a wave of contentment. No grand gestures, no glittering crowds, just the simplicity of being fully present with someone who saw and respected her. "You know," Alexander said quietly, spinning her gently, "I've been thinking about that first dance at the gala. I didn't know then that it would start all of this, but I'm grateful. Truly." Clara laughed softly. "I didn't expect it either, and now I wouldn't trade it for anything." Later, as they sat on a bench under a canopy of twinkling lights, Alexander turned to Clara with a more serious expression. "Clara, I want to make sure we start this next chapter on a foundation that lasts. I don't want us to be swept away by charm or excitement. I want honesty, patience, and trust." Clara nodded, taking his hand. "Agreed. No assumptions, no pretending. Just us, learning and growing together." Alexander smiled, relief and affection in his eyes. "Then we're ready for anything." Life may throw challenges, gossip, misunderstandings, but I know we can face it together. Clara felt tears prick her eyes, but this time they were tears of pure joy. She realized that what began as a chance encounter, a dance with a stranger at a crowded gala, had transformed into a connection built on respect, understanding, and love. As the evening wound down, Alexander and Clara walked slowly back to the car. The city lights reflected on the wet streets from an earlier rain, creating a sparkling, almost magical scene. "Do you realize," Alexander said, "how rare this is? To meet someone unexpectedly and then find they fit so perfectly into your life?" Clara leaned against him, smiling. "I do, and I never want to take it for granted." Alexander stopped and looked deeply into her eyes. "Then let's promise each other something. No matter where life takes us, no matter the challenges or obstacles, we'll always be honest, we'll always trust, and we'll always choose each other." "I promise," Clara said, her voice steady, filled with emotion. As they drove home in silence, the comfort of each other's presence spoke louder than any words. The gala, the private dances, the challenges, the misunderstandings, they had navigated them all together. What had started as a moment of chance had grown into a relationship defined by intention, respect, and authenticity. Clara realized that sometimes the most profound connections begin unexpectedly, but it is care, patience, and mutual understanding that allow them to flourish. As she closed her eyes that night, safe in Alexander's presence, she whispered softly, "Sometimes a dance changes everything," and in that moment, she knew it had. Use the uploaded image as the reference. Generate the same character,